Hello everybody. I just wanted to do a little video, short video on explaining a little bit more on the importance and how degree of leverage works. There's a YouTube video right up here on this link that you should watch first before you listen to the rest of this video. This link is also posted in Moodle for you, and it has to do with a guy that's pretty good talking about degree of leverage. What we have here is two different organizations, A and B, and they're very similar. They both have sales of 300. This one has A has variable cost of 100 and B has variable cost of 200, meaning contribution margin of 200 for A and 100 for B. Remember, contribution margin is sales minus variable cost. Whoops, excuse me, I don't know what that is. Let's see here. Excuse me, don't show this message again. I think that's low resources on my system. Okay, sorry. Now, this one maybe has variable cost that is lower because of the way they're setting up their business. Maybe they've hired more like doctors or nurses that they keep in fixed costs that are there all the time, where this organization maybe contracts for their doctors or nurses and only has them there when they need them as part of their variable costs when there's visits. Then organization A has fixed cost of 190 and B has fixed cost of 90. But notice their OI, or operating income, is both the same, 10. But then let's go ahead and calculate their DOL. Organization A, remember DOL is their contribution margin divided by their operating income. So in this case, 200 divided by 10 is 20. So it's a pretty high degree of leverage. Organization B has contribution margin of 100, operating income of 10, so their DOL is 10. So now let's just get into a little bit about why this matters. So now let's say that in each of these organizations they also had 50 visits. So I put in if they each of them had 50 visits, I was trying to show you what their unit cost would be. So 50 times 6 equals to 300. 50 times the $6 equals to 300. So they get the same amount per visit. Their variable costs are different and their fixed costs are different, but their OI turns out to be the same at the end. Now, what would happen if each organization had an additional 3 visits? That's where the degree of leverage makes a big difference. And the reason it's important to know what your degree of leverage is because you want to know what's going to happen after you've reached your achieved budget. So let's say this is their budget, and then now each of them gets an additional 3 visits. And the reason why that's important to know is if you think that your budget is in a time when you're going to achieve more visits, you could be trying to manage one way. If you don't think that you're going to have very many visits, or the chances of you reaching your budget is going to be tough, you might have to try to manage another way. So let's see the impact of the additional 3 visits when one organization has a DOL of 20 and another of 10. And I've got it hidden right here, so let's just go. Whoops, sorry. And unhide it, and here we go. What happens when they each have 3 more visits? Well, look at organization A and organization B each have 3 more visits at $6, so it gives them more revenue, each the same amount of revenue. So now they have 318. The variable costs are $2 times the 3 additional visits would mean it's an additional $6. So we go from 100 to 106. Over here, their variable costs were $4, so they give them an extra $12 in variable cost. Their contribution margin is 212 and 106. Here it was 200 and here it was 100. Their fixed cost, this is important, stays the same because they're within their relevant range. They don't have to add any more fixed costs. So now look what happens. The operating income went from 10 22 with those three additional visits. Wow. That's an increase of $12. Over here, they went from 10 to 16. Well, that's an increase of $6. But this organization, this is their bottom line. This is how much more money they made. So here, they've made from 10 to 22, from here 10 to 16 on the same 3 visits where they got the same revenue per visit. So you can see when they have a high degree of leverage and you have additional sales, you've got a lot more contribution margin going to cover your costs. And because fixed costs remain the same, all that extra revenue falls to your bottom line. There you go. Now the trouble is, the exact same thing would happen in reverse if sales were under. You'd have a much bigger loss. Your loss would go down a lot more, and your loss would not be as much over here. This number here is just your change. I'll show you. It's just your change in your OI. That was that number. And this is just your percent change, showing you that how much of it changed just because of those 3 visits. It's a huge impact. That's why it's very important to understand what your organization has and what happens, what kind of degree of leverage your organization has, and what's going to happen if you don't make your budget. Okay, so that's that. So don't forget, watch this video, then come and look at this again. It might be a little more clearer. And then you've got your homework, and your homework is set up in these problem ones. It's also been uploaded onto Moodle. And I would start with problem 1. And there's another video that I put up there for you, and it has to do with how to set up and how to do graphing in Excel. Just watch that video very carefully, and you'll be able to do the homework. And if you watch this video, you'll have a great understanding of DOL. And we're going to follow up with this a little bit in our next class after you've turned in your homework, and we'll kind of go through your homework assignment and answer any questions you might have. So thank you, and looking forward to seeing you next time.